All right, welcome everybody who is joining us. I'm not sure if this is up yet, but will come soon. I'm going to go ahead and open up the Zoom meeting as well so we can see our attendees start to roll in. As I said last week, this is my favorite part where we just hit broadcast and then everybody can start coming in. So welcome everybody. Amanda, would you like to say hi? And Nick,
Hello.
and if you want to introduce yourself and just say hello really quickly since you'll be presenting later tonight.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Nick, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. Hi. Nick Hahn, art teacher in Minnesota. I am host of Everyday Art Room for the Art of Education University, and I teach elementary art.
Awesome. Thanks. Hi, Lindsay.
Hey guys, hi, it's Lindsay Moss. If you've been here the last couple of weeks, you know I'm in the chat trying to help you out with links, and I'm excited to share something tonight too. So welcome back everybody who's been here before, and welcome everybody who's new.
All right, awesome. Thank you both. So we will hear from Lena Rodriguez and me here in just a little bit to start things out, and then Nick will be presenting, and a little bit later Lindsay will be presenting as well, like she said, so that should be pretty exciting. But for right now I'm going to turn them off, so
Bye.
We'll talk to them again soon though, so don't be too sad. All right, so Amanda, how has your week been?
It's been good. I think the coronavirus quarantine is starting to make me crazy because I went for a run today, which is, I think the last time I went for a run was like 3 years ago. So I don't know, it felt good, kind of. But I just like need to get out of the house and like get farther away from my family, even though I love them dearly. But like running lets you get a little farther away than like going for a neighborhood walk. So what about you?
Same. We're about to get some really bad weather, so well, I love to run and I do it all the time, but I got out today, and since it started to get cold, like the trails were not crowded at all, and so I appreciate that quite a bit. So
yeah, it was nice here, and it's a little weird, like, are you gonna move? Am I gonna move? Now there's kids on a scooter. It's yeah, it can be kind of stressful.
Yeah, it creates some awkward situations.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we have a whole bunch of attendees, so I would say let's go ahead and get started. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, so hello to everyone and welcome to week 3 of the webinar. As I said, my name is Tim Bogatz. I'm going to be one of your hosts for the next hour, and joining me for the night is Amanda Hahn.
Hi, everybody. Really excited about week 3. We have some really great presenters and kind of diving a little deeper into some topics that I think teachers are really wanting right now. So super excited.
Yeah, I think we have some really good content tonight, things that are going to be really helpful for people. And again, a lot more downloads that everybody can hopefully use. So before we get started though, as always, we're publishing a ton of things on the AOEU website. We have a lot of good stuff that's come up in the last week. So Amanda, can you just share really briefly some of the new things that have been published?
Yes, definitely. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen here. Can you guys see that?
Yes, you are good.
Okay, so I'm going to run through some of the articles that we have published new this week. So from Janet Taylor, if you were at the webinar last week, she did a great session on creativity. And this week she published 10 takeaways from e-learning. So she's been doing this for a while now, kind of like we all are, but I really like this article because it really shines some light on some of the very positive things that are coming out of this. Like number 1, students are super creative, and she just kind of goes through things that she's learned and that will probably resonate with a lot of teachers at their stage in the journey. Then we have how to understand the 5 stages of e-learning. So this is kind of like the 5 stages of grief, which is, if you've been reading at all about mental health during this time, a lot of experts are saying what a lot of us are feeling is grief. And so this is kind of a nice parallel to that if you want to dive into a little bit of mindfulness. Then, of course, kind of maybe on the flip side, we have 8 unique ways to use toilet paper tubes. Again, it's kind of a reality right now. You might have more than usual in your home, and it's something that students hopefully have at their homes, but this is by who else but Abby. And she just has some really creative ideas about how you can actually use this to create some pretty stunning artwork, dare I say. So that's a really fun article as well. And then I just wanted to highlight, we have so much great stuff. If you go to the coronavirus page on the AOEU website, there's tons of articles and resources. But I wanted to draw your attention back to this one about how to use Google Classroom in the art room. Now a lot of people are done with spring break and they're really jumping into e-learning in earnest, and they're not quite sure how to get materials to their students. And so some people have their own learning management system through their school. If you don't, Google Classroom is a great tool to use. And this article by Abby has so many amazing video tutorials that will actually help you set it up. As a super quick reminder before we jump in, if you do have access to Flex curriculum, you can go ahead and use anything from Flex and you can upload it into a learning management system or Google Classroom and share it directly with your students. So lesson plans or resources, I just clicked on the resource tab here. Even things like assessments and videos, all of that is able to be used in Google Classroom or any LMS. If you don't have Flex, just as a reminder, we'd love your district to pay for it for you so you don't have to. And we'll drop a link in the chat if you want to talk to somebody about getting it in your school or your district. If that's not an option for you, we're also offering $150 off an individual subscription. So there's some options for you there. But whether you have it or not, I really encourage you to go to the coronavirus page on the AOEU website and just check out all of the links there. I think there will be probably something for every stage, whether you're just starting this week or you've been doing it a couple weeks, so you can sort of grasp what you need to do and take it to the next level. Tim, did you want to share about what has been on the podcast this week? Because I know you had some relevant stuff there too.
Definitely excited about all of that. On the Art Ed Radio podcast, I spoke with Sarah Kreisky, who presented a couple weeks ago, but we talked about mental health, the power of positivity, I guess, and just some basic tips on how she's recording videos for her students. So a lot of good advice. It was a really entertaining conversation, one that I enjoyed a lot, and I think if you give it a listen, you'll probably enjoy that too. And then Nick, who we'll hear from in just a little bit here, on Everyday Art Room, she had a great conversation with two international teachers who both teach in Hong Kong, just about what life is like there right now, what things are going to look like for us a few weeks into the future and kind of what we can expect. And so they also had a great conversation about studio habits of mind and how they're trying to focus their distance learning on that. So just it's a very detailed conversation with a lot of takeaways there. So that is a great episode as well that just came out today and definitely worth listening to.
Awesome. So if this is your first time tuning in, this is actually our third webinar. So we have two previous ones. One is a little bit longer at around 2 hours and one is about an hour and a half. You can find both of those on the AOEU website on the coronavirus page. Down at the bottom, there's something that says webinars, so you can click links 1 and 2. Each of those also has a magazine article associated with it. So if you are a reader of the magazine, you can find those there as well. Lindsay, of course, will also drop them in the chat. So there are multiple points of entry. If you haven't seen those, I really recommend you check them out. Specifically, if you need a moment of relaxation, there's a really great short mindfulness activity at the end of last week's that a lot of people really liked. So if you want to check that out, that's great. And again, lots of great other content there as well.
Yeah, and also I just want to, before we get started, talk a little bit about the format of the conference for people who are here for the first time. So I'm sorry if you've heard this before, but for everybody who's new, Amanda and I will be with you over the next hour, and we will be bringing on guests to share some of their best practices, their best ideas. We'll have downloads available for you, and we'll make sure we link those in the chat all throughout the night. And the chat is a great place for you to be, to connect with other art teachers. That's the place where the conversation will be taking place tonight in Zoom. If you're on Zoom, you should see it open on the right side of the screen. If it's not there, you can click on the chat button on the bottom of the screen to make it pop up. There's a little drop down there that right above where you type, you can just make sure you're sending messages to everyone. And then Lindsay Moss will be sharing links to downloads, articles, podcasts, everything we've talked about, and everything that comes up tonight in the chat. And we want you, like I said, to join in that conversation and talk to the other art teachers that are there. Now, if you're watching on Facebook Live, Abby Shukai is facilitating the conversation over there. We would love for you to leave comments, leave questions there throughout the night. If polls come up, you can answer right in the comments there. But no matter where you are participating, we want you to ask questions of the presenters. So if you have something you want to ask, leave a comment, put it in the chat. We will ask a couple questions after each presentation, and some of the presenters will actually jump into the chat to converse with you after their presentation is over as well. And then finally, like Amanda just talked about, we're going to be recording the entire webinar. You'll be able to access it after the fact. So we'll send out an email with the recording. It'll be at the top of the Art of Education University Facebook page for a little while, and it should be available on the AOAU website as well. Hey, Amanda, back to you.
Yes. All right. So before we dive in, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a preview of what you're going to be seeing tonight. We have 3 presenters, and we've kind of themed this webinar as sort of how do you create engaging content? So it's sometimes difficult to motivate students when they're sitting right in front of you, right? Now they're spread out all over your city, or sometimes they're even farther. And so how do you really engage and motivate kids online? So first up, we're going to have Lena Rodriguez. She and Tim are going to have a chat about art history and how you might still bring that in, even though you are in a virtual space. Then Nick Hahn is going to join us. And if you know anything about Nick, you know she's kind of a master at flipping videos. She actually even has a pro pack in our pro library about that topic. And so she's going to be talking about how do you create videos in a way that is going to make kids want to watch them and sort of keep them engaged, you know, keep them short and meaningful. And then finally, we're going to end with Lindsay Moss, who is going to be talking about how she keeps virtual meetings fun and engaging. And you will not want to miss that one. Definitely stick around to the end because some of her ideas are hilarious and just really brilliant. So I think that by the end of this, you're going to walk away with some really great ideas that you can take directly into your virtual teaching for the next week.
All right, awesome. Now, as everybody knows, I love doing polls. And so I want to start out tonight with a poll here. So we're going to start, it should pop up for you in Zoom, or you can just listen and type in as you are on Facebook Live. But what has been the most difficult part of moving to teaching online? Okay, so we have 4 options there. Most difficult part of moving to teaching online. Number 1, learning new technology. Number 2, connecting with students. Number 3, finding the right lessons. Or number 4, balancing home life and work life. Okay, so Amanda, as people are beginning to answer this, can you just tell us what your answer would be?
Yeah, for me, definitely it's balancing. I mean, well, I'm not teaching, but if I were, I still think I have 2 young kiddos, which I talked about last week, and balancing work and home life is probably the number 1 thing that I'm still kind of finding my groove with, but still is difficult, I would say. But if you don't have kids, I could see where maybe finding the right lessons would trump that, because it kind of can be difficult to wrap your head around what kids have at home and their differing levels of access to technology and things like that. So
yeah, I think
I'm interested to see.
Yeah, and I'm wondering too if people have like shifted just a little bit too, like, you know, at the beginning, you know, maybe the toughest part was finding the right lessons or learning new technology. But, you know, now it may be connecting with students. And that's actually what it looks like here, at least on Zoom. What we're seeing is connecting with students was the biggest one with 34%. Learning technology was second with 27%. Balancing home and work life was 22%. And then the final one was finding the right lessons, which was 17%. So kind
I
of
will not be a psychic in my next life.
No, not quite. The exciting part is next week we're going to have at least 1 presentation on connecting with students, and so hopefully that will be needed, and I think people will appreciate that, so that should be cool. And I think one other thing that is, I don't know, worth talking about is it's been amazing to see how many lessons get put online. Everybody's doing an incredible job of sharing their teaching, supporting each other. And, I would just say as we move forward, keep sharing, keep talking, keep asking questions, and don't be afraid to ask for help. All right, so Amanda, we're just about ready to dive in. But before we do that, can you share just a couple reminders of what we're going to be seeing over the next hour?
Yep. So like I said, we're going to have 3 different presenters over the next hour. Like I say, every week, remember that everyone's kind of doing the best with what they have and where they're at in this process. We've seen, most schools are closed now, but you may be in different areas of the journey, depending on if you've had spring break or, the requirements from your district. So just showing everybody a little bit of grace and understanding, which I think this audience is amazing at doing anyway. And then think about what is possible for you at this point, right? So like I just said, we're all at different spots. Something you hear might not be right for you now. It might be right for you later. It might never be right for you, but grabbing what you can and seeing how it can fit into your distance learning plan, I think is a good technique. And then finally, as tough as it is to think about, we are likely still in sort of the beginning stages of this. So just as a reminder, we are here for you. It's why we're doing this webinar, and we'll continue to do so for at least a few more weeks here. And we just are happy to be part of your support system.
Yeah, that's well said. So, all right, we have talked for long enough. It is time for us to jump into the learning. So Nick Hahn is going to be presenting first for us tonight. Nick, before we get started, I mentioned the podcast really quickly, but I think it's a really great one that people should listen to. So can you tell us just a little bit about the episode that came out today?
Yeah, can you hear me okay, first of all?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. Good. All right. It actually was about 2 weeks ago when everybody went into panic, like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? I contacted a friend of mine, a virtual friend, Kit Lang, and I said, hey, can you help us out? Because she lives in Hong Kong and we need to know what you've already gone through. And she said, she's so professional. She said, yep, I'm on it. I'll get to it. She's actually in the chat. So if you have any specific questions, go ahead and you can talk to her right there. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, I think on Friday morning for her, but she's here with us right now. So feel free to say hi within the chat. And then she contacted a secondary teacher, Zoe Coughlin, who also teaches in Hong Kong. And we spoke to both of them and they just shared, everything that has moved me forward in this journey, because they really are about 9 weeks ahead of at least Minnesota. And so it was beautiful to hear just the learning lessons that they've gone through. The top things that I took away from them is find something that you can do with your students that's sustainable, something that you can do throughout the whole time without stressing yourself out. That was something that kept echoing in the back of my mind when I was developing my stuff. Something that's engaging. I try to do that all the time, but it was a really good reminder. And then some things that were offline, off digital lessons. So encouraging your students to get offline as much as possible because they really are required a ton to be online. So those were kind of the 3 things that I pulled away from our conversation with Kit and Zoe.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then can you just tell us a little bit about where you are personally, I guess, like what teaching looks like for you right now?
Yeah, sure. Okay, Minnesota is 1 week in to actually teaching the students. So our governor, Tim Walz, he gave us 2 weeks to plan as teachers. And I was so grateful for that because I think there was so many teachers that needed that planning time or found it very beneficial. But I know that's not the same across the country, but luckily for us, it was. I took that time to really go through the material that I already have because luckily I've been recording for 10 years. And so I had over 1,400 videos to go through on my YouTube. And I just organized all of them, which was super beneficial for me. And then I landed on careers in art. That is what I'm teaching my kids. So it is creating a choice base for them. The first career that we studied this week, I'll just give you that as an example, was architecture. And so then I gave kindergarten through 5th grade all the same career to study. And they had a choice board. There was found objects that they could create a structure with. They could build with blocks, and I suggested them even watching Lego Masters as inspiration. Drawing a building just physically on a piece of paper, or building a fort with blankets and furniture in their home. The pictures I'm getting, that's all they have to do is take a picture and send it to me, either using Seesaw or in their Google Drive. And the pictures I'm getting, it just looks like they're having so much fun. They're truly engaged. It was perfect. What I liked about having it K-5 was that students could be collaborative with their siblings too. And I think that was really important in my plan.
Yeah, that's a great idea, because I've seen so many struggles from parents who maybe have one device at home and they're trying to work with 2 or 3 kids. So, but I think we probably need to talk a little bit about your 1,400 videos worth of experience. I know you have a lot of really good tips for everybody, just on how to record videos, how to make them engaging, all that good stuff. So I will turn it over to you and let you take over from here.
Okay. All right. So yes, I have lots of experience with videos, and I actually use them in my classroom on a regular basis because I feel it doubles me. It allows me to put a video on, and I can be classroom management in the back of the audience, or I can quickly prep and put, paints at the paint spots, or whatever I need to do. It gives me, or just simply breathe for a moment as my students are learning from my stunt double up in the front, which is just invaluable. So having videos is, even though you're creating them for this digital online learning, you will definitely be able to use this beyond that. And that's something I learned from Kit Lang as well. She mentioned that don't just think about doing this as digital learning, but long-term, how can you use this for sub-plans in the future, or maternity leave, she mentioned. So real clever ideas of how to look at this. When creating any kind of content, and if it's new for you, Google is your best friend. That is absolutely one thing that I want to mention to everybody. Just search Google, find out. There are so many YouTubers out there that will give you the information that you need to really become, at least give you the tools that you need to do what you have in your brain as far as filming goes. But I'm going to really emphasize keeping your content short and concise. Think about what our students are being asked to do on a regular basis. They're asked to look at a video and do a task. Look at a video, do a task. This is throughout the entire day. So you need to do something that's going to keep them engaged, keep them focused, and keep them in your content mentally, I guess I should say. So remember that they have the power of pause, which is something they don't have in your classroom. They have the power of pause. So anytime that they need to pause it, they can. So you can make your content as quick and concise as possible, and they can pause that information whenever they need to. It's really very individual learning when we flip our videos, and that just means record our videos. So I'm not talking about like what materials you need or what platforms you're going to use, although I will mention some at the end. I want to talk about how to make your filming as concise as possible. The first thing you want to do is write your script, and that's currently what I'm doing right now. Write your script, and it doesn't have to be every single word. Think about lesson plans. How do you write your lesson plans? Can you bullet point just the items that you want to mention? And that really helps you focus on what you want to say so that you don't stray. Take photos instead of video sometimes. So if you're talking about the supplies that you need for your lesson, get them all arranged in front of you, take a photo, and then put it in for 3 to 5 seconds saying, these are the materials you need. Just give a picture. You don't have to say a scissors and a 2-point, you know, this kind of pencil, and you don't waste their time. Show them a picture. They can pause, power of pause. Then when you're recording, give a little intro, talk about the important stuff. Absolutely. I'm not saying make this a silent film, although that's not a bad idea. What you can do is time lapse. So when you are going about coloring, have you ever done this in class where you just go and then color here and color here and color here, and you do it fast and sloppy, and then your students return the favor by giving you something that's fast and sloppy because you've just demonstrated that. So again, this is the amazing part about flipping a lesson, is that you can take your time and color in all those white spots and make the craftsmanship amazing, and even show them the full process, but do it in time lapse. Time lapse is on your camera. Just go up to time lapse and take your time, do a great job, and that's going to condense the whole process of art, which is great. If you don't do that, if you want to just film yourself for 3 hours of making a project, that's fine. Do a lot of editing then. Get rid of the parts that you don't need. Cut to 3 seconds of starting your project, then do a little neat transition and show them the end where everything looks nice and neat. So using that editing and kind of condensing your information as much as possible. That's kind of the quick and dirty of it, truly, when I talk about condensing your information. But I want to talk about just shortly what I use for recording. And my favorite is an iPad or my phone, and using iMovie for editing. It's absolutely hands down my favorite, but mostly because that's what I know. Tim, is it okay if I share my screen? Okay, so I just wanted to show the kind of the inspirations here. Can you see Kit Lang? Okay, this is Kit and her Instagram account. So if you are looking to buzz her any questions, she said she's completely open to answering any questions. This is where you can go, Instagram. And then Zoe Coughlin was the other teacher that I spoke with. And so this is her ceramics one. So go ahead and check her out. And then I bring up these 2 accounts as well. Joe Boatfield, I saw him record just a quick little snippet about using an app called Clips on iPhone. It's an iPhone specific. And I think it might be this one right here. So if you go to his IGTV, Clips is really cool because it does just that. You take like this much and this much and this much, and you put it all together, and it kind of shortens it for you. It condenses the information for you. And then I was thinking about our Samsung people, and Shannon here. She recently reached out to me because she said, you've always encouraged it, very recently actually. We've been online friends for a while, and she said that I encouraged her, and she's making videos now. So hooray for that. So if we go to her IGTV, she has tons of beautiful videos. And I went through and watched one, and I was so impressed with how concise and how beautiful she made it. And she has this beautiful music in the background. So I wrote her to ask her how she was doing it. And she said that she has a Samsung and she uses video recorder on it, and it allows her to pause. So that's how you can condense that information. And she does a really good job of this. And there's a music editor as well on the Samsung device. So find a way that works for you. Use YouTube as much as possible. These are some great resources, and I am open to any questions that you might have.
Awesome. I saw this come up a couple times from attendees. They want to know if you're recording your own videos, what is the best program to use? So do you have a personal favorite?
I use camera roll most often, and I'm gonna physically move to go get what else I use, okay? Right. This right here is iPad stand. Maybe this will show it better. It holds my iPad so that I can record under here, and I can change the levels, and I can change it so that the phone or iPad faces me. This is an iPad stand it's called Just Stand, J-U-S-T-A-N-D, Just Stand. And I love this iPad stand. You don't need it. I've used a locker shelf. You go into your kitchen, get something that has some sort of a grate where you can put the iPad so that it's over it, and just record your hands to begin with. So, and then the other thing that I've been playing with, please, I showed you the clean part of my room, is green screen. So on my wall, I have a big green background, and what I've been using is Screencast-O-Matic. There's a free version which gives you a lot of capabilities, but then if you pay $20 for the year or something right around there, you can have green screen accessibility, and that's been a godsend for me too lately.
Nice, cool. Well, Nick, a bunch of people have some shorter questions for you, so can you hop on the chat once we're done here and just answer a few in there? Okay,
sure.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, I think we're good to go. Thank you so much. It's been awesome hearing from you.
Thank you, Nick. Such good info.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, next up is going to be Lena Rodriguez, and she is a high school teacher at the Grand Prairie Fine Arts Academy in Dallas-Fort Worth area. Lena, first of all, welcome. How are you, and how has your family been doing with everything that's going on right now?
Well, thanks. Yeah, I'm so glad to be here. Things are going really well under the circumstances. Everyone's really healthy, not just in our home, but our extended family. So we're grateful for that. I'm also married to an educator. So this has been a new normal for us. It already kind of feels like this is what life is. And I think we've adjusted okay. We have 3 kids at home. So, different types of academic work going on with them while trying to navigate distance learning, pretty much overnight. But honestly, I really don't have any complaints. It's not been easy, but under the circumstances, I mean, it's a really good learning opportunity because we were wanting to integrate more flipped learning and things like that. So it's a crash course.
Yeah, there we go. And then we wanted to talk about all of your great art history ideas. And all of my slightly above average art history ideas. And so I just thought we could kind of go back and forth and kind of talk about some cool ways to make art history work for distance learning. So you had a great idea, I guess, probably a good one to start off with is doing an architectural drawing that's based on a style or a movement. So can you chat about that for a little bit?
Yeah, so when trying to come up with ideas of things that would work well with distance learning, not exactly knowing what material supplies your students have accessible to them, but knowing a good portion of them have some sort of phone or device where they can Google things and research things. Architecting like a really great way to be introduced to students at this time because there's so many live virtual tours of different types of buildings, and you find that it'll also tie in really well with whatever history class they're taking, whether it's European history, American history. There's always ways that you can incorporate architecture so you're connecting both that academic and that fine art learning, which is something that we really promote and push and do on our campus. So one of the examples for an assignment that we'd had and we've been playing with is actually having them research different styles and come up with their own building, or maybe even if it's just a room in the building. We talked about how Frank Lloyd Wright would not only design the building, but the furniture inside the building and down to the clothing that people would wear in the building. And so I thought that would be a really neat take if they're studying a certain style and then they had to design a foyer or bedroom in this building. What would the furniture look like? What is an example of something that you would wear? And then, you know, once they get a feel for that, well, then that's when you kind of start to throw in some other wrenches, like, okay, well, you're going to go for a neoclassical look, which is, you know, very inspired by Greek architecture, but then you're going to add a Gothic flair with the furniture. So how are you going to combine those two different ideas and make it something that's cohesive and that works? So there's a lot of different avenues you can go with it. There's great websites and things where you can actually just type in ideas and it'll spin the wheel and it'll land on this and land on that. And we've done things like that in class before, but that's definitely something that you can do with your students as well. And it could be very challenging depending on the type of styles of buildings, because if you have something that's very ornate, you know, and then you have something that's a little more rugged and something that contradicts the original style, you have to find a way to merge those two things together creatively and make it work.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. And I love the idea, you know, when we first started talking about this, just my mind went crazy with all the different possibilities of what you can do with that. So I think that's a really, really cool idea. A really simple idea that I wanted to share is just to have students choose an artist and look up some of their works. You can have them sketch them in their sketchbook, make some drawings, or just write a little bit about them, and then have them rank the works from favorite to least favorite. Maybe it's 5, maybe it's 10, however many you want to do. You know, even if it's elementary kids, have them look up 3 works and just rank them from favorite to least favorite. And that really gets them, you know, making those comparisons, doing higher order thinking skills, you know, just all of those cool things that, you know, get them a little bit more into it, which can be a really cool thing. And then we have a couple of really good resources if you want to do that. Number one, we have a list of 144 artists, which is fantastic. You know, you can pick from here if you need a good list. You can have your students pick something from this list and just, you know, grab this and go, and you can do a lot of really cool things with that. And if you are a Flex member, you've probably seen the artist bios that we have, where this one's about Maya Lin, but it has a quick illustration of one of their works. It has history, a little bit about their career, what they're known for. So a really good introduction to different artists you can share with your students, and even has names of their famous artworks if you want to have your kids look them up and use that to just rank them, or just write opinions about some of the works that they're seeing. It's a really, really simple idea that they can get your kids kind of some in-depth learning about artists, and most of it can be self-directed there. So Lena's second idea I really wanted you to talk about was designing a poster for an artist of students' choice, whether that be for an art show or advertising their work or whatever. Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like, or what you would have students do with that?
Yeah, so again, going back to some of these kids, you know, may have a full-on studio in their home, and a lot of other kids may have less available to them. I saw in one of the comments, it was a really, it was simple, but it was really true. You know, just assume they have pencil and paper. And one of the things that they can do with that is create a poster design. This is a really good way to talk about the principles of design and get them thinking about marketing as an artist. You could assign them an artist, or they could pick an artist of their choosing. I think it's even more interesting when you go further back with less modern artists, because we have all these other things like accessible for us. But like if you go back and you think of Vincent Van Gogh, like if he was having a one-man show during his time before his death, design a poster for that. What would the title of the show be? Where, probably in Austria or wherever, where would it be held? And what would the design look like? What kind of colors would be used? And they could even go as far as looking at the different typesets and fonts and things like that that were available at the time, and try to achieves that look. And it's a really great way. Again, it's art history, but in a completely different way. You're not necessarily just reading and memorizing the names of pieces, but you're actually creating something that's hands-on. And if the kids get to do it with an artist they're not familiar with, then they're learning so much about that artist at the time, learning about which prolific works would be maybe the background, or they would pick the color combination from that piece as part of their design. And if it's somebody that they absolutely love, well, this is a really great opportunity for them to actually show everything that they already know about that artist and featuring that on that poster. Because one of the things we like to do too is just promote our students as individual artists, and learning that process of putting on a show and making a website and putting your name out there. So being able to start the process by learning how to do it with already successful artists that we know about in art history, gives them the skills that they need, so then they can kind of start to incorporate those things into their own personal branding.
Yeah, that's really cool. And just having kids making those connections can be great. And, I think, that's a good lesson, because I know so many districts right now are saying, hey, no new learning, this can only be review. And so if you can do that with artists that you've already studied, then, that can tie everything together really nicely for him. Next one I wanted to share was just trying to make those virtual museum tours, make those a little bit more meaningful, because, everybody's seen, hey, the 12 museum article that offer virtual tours, and like, we can do pretty well with that ourselves as people with knowledge of art history, but our students don't know how to make that worthwhile. They don't know how to make that meaningful. So I think we need to do more than just like send them a link and say, go do this, and there's so many ideas that you can do. Ask them to make sketches of specific things, or just pick out some of their favorite works that they see and make drawings, or respond to the work with a quick opinion paragraph, or write a narrative of the tour, or just talk about their favorite works that they encounter, their favorite things that they see as they go through there. There's so many ways, and they can be really simple ways to make it a little bit more engaging about that. And I think probably my favorite thing, if you have a little bit more time, is to design a scavenger hunt and have kids look for specific things as they go through the museum. And Lena, you were telling me about a really cool scavenger hunt you did with Frida Kahlo. So can you talk about that just really quickly?
Yeah, so I've obviously, I have this obsession along with so many other artists with Frida Kahlo, and love her story and everything that she went through. And one of my dreams is to visit the Blue House in Coyoacan, or Casa Azul, the home that she was born in, that she was raised in, she died in, and there's parts of the house that are set up just like a gallery, and there's other parts of the house, the majority of them, that are left exactly the way she had her home. And it's an actual museum now that you can go visit, but you can actually go to the website of the museum and do a virtual tour. It's a little tricky because a little map pops down, and it is all in Spanish, but you can kind of figure it out pretty easily how to close the map. But you can close it and minimize it while you take the tour. And then you can also pull the map back out to click on the areas that you want to go. Well, so I put together a little scavenger hunt for my students, where they had to just look for simple things, but they're a little peculiar just because they're not things that you would think to look for necessarily in a museum. And so I think it was like a wooden spoon, a microscope, a pencil sharpener, and a prosthetic leg, because actually one of her legs, since she had polio, one of her legs with one of her red lace boots is on the floor next to the bed in one of the bedrooms. And I mean, you can look at this website for quite some time and find things that you would never really expect to see. But because she was so creative and peculiar, it can make the scavenger hunt pretty fun. So they have to go through there, and as they find them, they have to just screenshot it, and they can put it all in a document. And so, that's how they submit it. So they show that they've done that. And we also have them actually look for specific pieces in different galleries and museums, and saying, okay, in this particular museum, in this wing, there's a portrait of a woman holding a bird. I need you to find that piece and, XYZ. They can sketch their version of it, or why don't you take this painting and create a modern version of it? So maybe she's not holding a bird or something. Maybe she's holding one of those little couture mixed, like little puppies that people make now that didn't exist 200 years ago. They're like this big. You know, you could always find some type of way to modernize it and plug in something they're familiar with. But yeah, there's so many really great galleries and museums that are offering virtual tours. Some of them that used to be paid tours and now are free. So I think finding ways to incorporate additional steps other than just looking and perusing is a really great way to engage the students and have fun with it, because a lot of my kids were really excited when they were like, I found the prosthetic leg. They thought I was joking with them, and then they found it. So
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. Cool. And then just really quickly, one last idea that I thought you had that was really, really good was just, having kids think about social commentary and do an artwork related to social commentary. So can you talk a little bit about the context you give your kids and what you ask them to do with that?
Social commentary is something that's really, it's something that I really promote and encourage with my artists. And we start with our freshmen. Of course, this can be done, at all grade levels, but I think it's really important for young artists to be aware of their surroundings and the world around them, and thinking outside of what's maybe perhaps in their bubble. And we talk about how if you read history books and things like that, sometimes the way is necessarily completely aligned with the truth of the people that lived in that moment. You can read history books from one country versus another about the same event, and you're going to see some bias involved in there. And one of the things I tell my students is that you as an artist also have the responsibility to help educate, inform, and encourage other people to be aware of different things around them. So right now we're living in a time where this is unprecedented. What are some stories? What are some good things that you can share through your artwork and show your side of things and how you perceive things? We actually just started our social commentary with our freshmen just a couple of weeks before all this, affected us here and pulled us out of school and all of that. And if any of my students are watching this, because I sent the link, I miss y'all so much. But our social commentary is their opportunity to persuade or to bring awareness to a certain cause. And what I do tell them to do, though, I need them to research and understand all of the different points of view. Because if there's this situation and you feel adamantly strong about the situation, well, I want you to flip it and look at the opinion and the concerns of the other party, the other, institution that's involved, and see where they're coming from, because that really gives a well-rounded idea. They're doing their research. I'm telling them, use multiple news agencies and sources to get your stories and to learn about what's going on. And then you make a decision where you stand on that and you create a piece of artwork that either persuades or brings attention to something. And so we've had really great success with that. And there's a lot of really great news shows geared for students that, I really wouldn't want any of my students right now to just watch traditional television news right now. It's kind of daunting, but there are other sources out there, particularly for students, that give them a little bit of everything that's going on in the world and not hyper-focused in this thing that we're living in right now. So getting them clicked in and involved in the world around them, and even being able to tell personal stories through their artwork, not only therapeutic, but then they also feel like, okay, this is my contribution. The history books may say something about this or may say something about that, but this piece of artwork might end up in a gallery one day or a museum. And that's my way of sharing my story with it, because we never know how it's going to be reported. We never know how it's going to be remembered. And I think them understanding that their voice is so powerful and so important is a really great contributing factor to some of our brightest artists today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tim and Lena, for your ideas. I wanted to address one thing before I ask you guys a question. So some people in the chat were saying, my kids don't have access to online. How could I ever do art history? And I had an idea that I thought of, which I want to share, and then I'm going to ask you guys about it. So if your kiddos don't have access to the internet, art history is going to be a little tricky because I think looking at the work is obviously sort of an important piece of that. However, a couple of ideas. If you guys download this one about 5 art history ideas, kids could actually follow these with artists that you have already studied in your classroom before the break. You could even pair it with the 144 artists and circle the ones that you have already talked about in class, and kids could kind of partner these up and do some of these activities. If you're a Flex member, you can, if you have a way to get printed materials to kiddos, there's some really great art cards within Flex and some different art history ideas and activities that you can just send out to your kids, even if you have to print them off. So those are a couple of ideas I had. So Tim and Lena, I would ask, do you have any additional ideas to that about how to do art history offline? And then also for kids who are online, do you have any tips about how to keep them safe in terms of what they're seeing? You know, the internet is vast and there's nudity and mature themes, especially with contemporary artists who we do love to show our students. So kind of a 2-part tech and non-tech question there. So I don't know if anyone wants to grab it.
I'll just start by saying you stole all of my ideas for the offline suggestions. No, like I said to Lena earlier, you know, designing the poster for an artist of your choice, that's a great idea and one that you can do easily with artists that you've studied already. So yeah, I think that's good. And, you know, there are ways to do that with artists you've studied before, like, you know, pick out a landscape artist and then compare it to a landscape that you've seen before. You know, just simple things. Just try and make connections between, you know, artists that you've already studied and kids that you know, what you know your kids have access to or what they can do. I think that's probably the best way to go. And then to answer your second question, which is all about keeping kids safe. With high school, I guess, you know, it would not be as big of a deal to me because we pre-teach all of those things. Like, you're going to see this, you're going to run into this. We know that it's not a big deal. Here's how you handle it. And, you know, I think most teachers have pre-taught that and it's not that big of a deal. With elementary kids, I think you probably need to take the time and preview it yourself. I would love to give an easy answer on how to do that, but I don't think there's an easy way around. I think in order to be safe, you need to preview that yourself and make sure that nothing's coming up that you don't want your kids to see.
That makes a lot of sense. Lena, people were wondering, I don't know if you have time to stick around in the chat, but we're wondering if you could drop the link for the Frida Kahlo Museum in the chat if you have it readily available, and if you are willing to share any of your scavenger hunt questions. People were very excited about that. So
of course, yeah.
Awesome.
I can't go anywhere else, so of course I will stay on. And of course.
All right, well, Lena, thank you so much. It's been awesome talking to you, and we really appreciate you sharing all of your ideas.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for having me. All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, that was awesome. I love art history. I mean, you and I both like to nerd out about art history, so that was really fun.
Absolutely.
For me to watch. All right. Are we ready for our next presenter?
I think so.
Our final presenter of the evening. So our final presenter of the evening is going to be Lindsay Moss. If you have been in Zoom and interacting with the chat, she's the lovely human who has been helping out, dropping all the links in there. If you weren't here at the beginning, she was a writer for AOEU. She has a couple of amazing pro packs in the pro library. I love learning from Lindsay. She always has the most fun ideas. So Lindsay's home internet isn't the most reliable. So, I mean, realities of online learning playing out in real time here. So we're going to try something a little bit different and see how it works. Lindsay has pre-recorded her presentation, which we're going to share with you. And then we're going to try our best to bring her back live. It looks like her internet's doing okay. So if the video doesn't work, we might be able to shift. Here to talk about how to make online learning more enjoyable is Lindsay Moss.
Hey, Tim and Amanda, thanks for having me. Like they said, my name is Lindsay Moss, and I'm an elementary art teacher in Yorkville, Illinois, and I also work for the Art of Ed. I used to be a writer, and I help work on Pro and Flex and and help with the webinar. So you'll see me in the chat right now. But I am pre-recording this because my internet is a little iffy at times right now. We got a lot of traffic online, right? We all just need sleep, food, and Wi-Fi at the moment. So Tim and Amanda asked me to share some of what I've been doing with Zoom. And if you're not familiar, Zoom is a web platform, which we are using right now. So you've kind of got the basics already, right? But as we started to roll out e-learning in my district, I was looking for ways to still make that face-to-face connection with my students. And my district was encouraging us to use Zoom. And so I've come up with some ways to make it more interactive and fun for our kiddos. And I wanted to share those with you today. And if you're one of those people who is not using Zoom in your district and you're thinking, I'm just going to go make a snack right now, this doesn't apply to me, I encourage you to stick around because if you're not going to use this with your students, we all need to be doing things for ourselves right now too. And this presentation might have some ideas for fun things you could do with colleagues or family and friends in the evenings so that you're still connecting with those people and those relationships that matter to you. So first up is Zoom Pictionary. So I was having what's called a Zoom sketchbook share with my students. I guess it was the week before last. And I found like it was a really great way to promote equity because my kids could bring anything they had made at home to share. It didn't dictate a particular prompt or art supply. They would just log on to a predetermined time, and I let them know that through my Google Classroom posts. They'd log on to a Zoom meeting and be able to share out anything that they had made at home that they were proud of. And it was nice because I felt like we were still addressing some national standards that had to do with presenting and responding. And then we get partway through the meeting and like have extra time left. And so I started to invent some of these games. And the first one is Zoom Pictionary. And I know that right now the learning curve for all this online stuff is like this, right? It's great to get ideas, but it's even better if somebody explains to you exactly how they did it. So I actually pre-recorded my kids and I playing online Pictionary a few minutes ago. And we're going to go ahead and switch to that screen. Before we start, as with anything, there are tech issues. You'll see places where my kids' screen glitches. And in the Screencastify, their audio is a little hard to hear because it's Screencastify. But while we were playing, it was easy to hear. It's just going to be the two of them and me. For privacy reasons, right? But when I played this last week, I played it with up to like, I think the most we had was like 20 some kids, and Zoom just split it into two screens. And my kids loved it. I had them logging on multiple days to play this game. So let me go ahead and switch so you can see exactly what to click on to get it done. Okay, so how do you run this? All right, so for the sake of this demo, I've already got a meeting set up in Zoom. And it's pretty intuitive to do that once you like log into the platform. You just schedule a meeting and it'll talk you through it. So my kids are in different rooms of the house waiting to start Pictionary. So let's see how it works. I'm going to go ahead and press start. It's going to give a second. It's probably going to prompt me to test my microphone and my webcam, which I've already kind of done today. So I'm just going to say join. And I'm going to go ahead and, oh, I'm muted. Hold on here. I'm going to enter full screen so that I'm going to unmute and start my video. That doorbell meant that they can, they're here. Hi, Lyndon. How are you? And then Lyndon's in 4th grade. Can you back up a little bit, Lyndon, so everybody can see your face? Okay, and then there's Ellie. Ellie is in 1st grade. Hi, girls. Oh, Aunt Lyndon plus some dogs. Thanks. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, girls, and oh, yeah, you know, it might be because I'm recording this for the Art of Ed that my camera can't be used in 2 different places at once. So you're just going to have to trust that I'm here today because you can hear me. Okay, so when I'm running Pictionary, we're about to play Pictionary. I'll explain the rules, kiddos. Down here, I can click on Manage Participants, and the first thing I'm going to do is mute them. because I don't want them shouting over me during directions. Hi, girls. Do you see in the bottom how there's a red slash over your microphone? That means that we can't hear you right now. So we're about to play Pictionary. I gave you each some paper and a marker. Oh, Ellie looks excited. And what I'm going to do is down here in chat, I'm going to send you guys, one of you, a secret message, okay? So right here, I'm going to select the participant that I want, and I'm going to send her a message. Let's see here. I think she'll like that one. Okay, so let's see here. Lyndon, oh, I can tell by her face she got the message. Okay, so Lyndon has a choice. She can either hold her paper up like this and draw art teacher style in the air for Ellie to guess, or she can put her paper down on the floor and draw, which is probably easier, and then she can go ahead and hold it up for Ellie to guess. Now I'm gonna go ahead and unmute them so that they will be able to guess. Now, while Lyndon's drawing, I do need to let you know, my good friend Lauren had the suggestion that instead of having all the kids shout out the answers, they could type their guess as to what was being drawn in the chat, which I think is maybe less crazy and more effective. But since we're just playing with two of us, we'll go ahead and let Ellie shout it out. Okay, Lyndon, are you drawing? Okay, you got it. You're going to need to hold it up to the camera close so Ellie can guess what.
Can I keep drawing until I finish?
Yeah, you can keep drawing. And I'm going to go ahead and mute her. If you notice a participant is having a lot of background noise like that, that's one of the nice things about this manage function. I'm going to mute her because of the dogs barking. We have corgis. It's loud here. Ellie can still talk, can't you, Ellie? Yeah. Okay. So are you ready to guess what Lyndon's drawing? I think she's almost ready. Okay, Lyndon, go ahead and hold it up. What is it, Ellie? What do you think it is? A dog. Yeah, you got it on the first try. Good job, girls. Thank you for showing all the art teachers how that worked. Nice job, ladies. Awesome. Okay, Ellie, do you see where the chat button is at the bottom? It looks like a little talking bubble like in a cartoon. Okay, Ellie, I'm going to send you a secret message, okay? So now I'm going to go ahead and toggle to the next participant, and I'm going to say, Ellie, draw a... Ellie, do you see the secret message that I sent to you? Can you draw that? Go fast. Okay. Thanks for helping me with this, girls. I'm sure art teachers are going to be excited to be able to play this game with their kids because it's something fun so people can see each other's faces. And it's good to be able to see people we know and care about right now. It makes us feel better. Ellie, I see you capping the marker. Are you all set? Okay, hold it up. Wonderful. I'm so proud of you, girls. Nice job. Thank you for helping, guys. I'm going to go ahead and end your meeting, okay? I'll see you downstairs in a few minutes. Already, yep. All right, so I'm going to end the meeting for all of them. All righty. I'm going to go ahead and pause here and come right back. Okay, so hopefully that gave you a flavor of what it's really like to run it and how you can use the chat and kind of organize kids by muting and unmuting them so that they can hear each other, right? So before I go, I just wanted to share with you like a couple more ideas for how you could use Zoom besides Pictionary. And we have the excellent Pictionary download, which I'll link in the chat for you, and you may have already gotten it in your email today about the webinar, but it's already got like a ton of ideas that you could give in that secret message to kids based on the level of drawing that they do, right? Okay, but some other ideas, and these will be in the second download, which we'll link for you here as well. Up next for me this week is going to be Zoom scavenger hunts. So I feel like since sometimes making is hard depending on what kinds of materials kids have or don't have at home, this is a great time to be working on art vocabulary as well. So you can ask them to go find an object in their house or in their room that really exemplifies a vocabulary term that you would have been using in your class anyway. So you could say, go find something with a fuzzy texture. Go find something that illustrates contrast. Go find something with low relief. And then they need to hunt around their home and find something to come back to share. You could score it like kids against teacher, or you could just make it for fun, right? Some other ideas to keep them engaged and returning to your Zoom meetings so that you have good attendance and you're able to, really see them time after time, would be to do some fun things that just keep them kind of excited to tune in and see what is she or he going to do next. For example, you could get a co-host. Last week, the week before last, my kids were super excited when my dogs accidentally made an appearance in the Zoom meeting. There was happy screams, right? And I hadn't really thought of that before, but if you have a pet at home, having your pet co-host intentionally with you might be a way to entice kids. You could say, meet me for this meeting. We're going to be reflecting on this week's progress and joined by my dog. A lot of younger kids will log in to see that. You could also have if you don't have a pet, you could make a puppet. I mean, maybe this is a time for a puppet co-host. Get on your best muppeting. Another idea is to host a costume party. You could have your kids, you could say ahead of time, come in your funniest hat, or wear school colors to show school spirit, or dress like an artist and everybody's got their ear bandaged for Van Gogh. You could come up with a theme that would be easy for kids to do. And then they're logging on to see what each other has made. Another idea is moving your room. If you're comfortable with it, kids are kind of intrigued by the weird HGTV quality of seeing what the inside of their teacher's house looks like. So if you don't even need to tell them that you're doing this, but if you just broadcast from a different room of your house, as long as the Wi-Fi works, it's just interesting for them to see oh, that's her kitchen or that's her. Younger kids are interested by that. Another great idea that Amanda talked about last week is a show and tell. You give them a topic ahead of time that they're going to come and share about. It could be a favorite book that they have at home. It could be what art supplies they do have. It could be really any topic. Again, though, we really need to be thinking about equity at these times. So you really have to judge your student population and what they're going to be able to bring and do, right, without much trouble. And last but not least, this is a great time to critique. If you have them make anything that you've assigned in your learning management system over the week, they could just meet up to share and talk about it. So that way they're not just always impersonally presenting or posting a photo online and then hearing the comments back. You can still have that face-to-face conversation. So I hope some of these ideas are things that might work for you, either for your class, or maybe you're gonna, have a show and tell or a dress-up costume party with some colleagues at night on Zoom. So I'll be in the chat. I can't wait to hear other ideas that you've had for games that you could play over Zoom, and ways that we can really keep connected to our kids and keep them engaged in these unusual times. So thanks for having me, Tim and Amanda.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. That was awesome. I know we have a couple extra questions for you here. So first off, can you just talk a little bit more about the downloads that you've created?
Yeah, okay, so we linked them in the chat and they were in your email, but they'll also be on the site. But the first one is kind of like an overview of everything we just talked about, like the 7 great ideas to make your virtual meeting more fun, whether you use this with students or if your district's not doing virtual meetings with students. I think, again, these could work for adults. So if you're having an art PLC with colleagues, some of these might be fun to try too. And then Pictionary, which I showed with my girls. Thanks for hanging with me. When you have 2 daughters, you can't let one take a turn and not the other. So thank you all for watching them both draw. But we put together a download of Pictionary Rules that you could throw into your learning management system. But I love this because I feel like Sometimes when you're talking to kids on the fly and you're trying to manage internet behavior, it's hard to come up with like good Pictionary prompts. And Tim helped me make this list by age of some great prompts that you could use. Of course, you can come up with your own, but these are really fun. There's some like wacky ones on this list, so you should check it out. It's on page 2 of that download.
Awesome. So we've been hearing a lot, particularly today, about Zoom bombing. I just learned this word at like 3 p.m. today. I didn't know it had a word, but there have been people out there hacking into Zoom meetings and showing kids inappropriate things that they shouldn't be seeing. So I was wondering if you could tell us how you avoid that and sort of keep kids safe in this new online space that we're all trying to navigate.
Sure. So I think like the first step is that you really need to talk to your district about what type of online meeting platform they're comfortable with. That's kind of a choice, I think, that is above our heads, right? Like you want to ask an administrator, because I know in certain states with certain platforms, compliance isn't always there. My district has asked us to use Zoom, so that's why I'm using it. So I have a couple suggestions, and some of these are Zoom specific, but I think they can be true of any platform to kind of avoid outsiders coming in and keeping it a safe space for our kids. But the first one is not to ever share your link publicly. Don't put it on a Facebook page. If you have public Instagram, don't put a link there. Even if that's how you're normally communicating with kids and parents, that's just not a safe way to do it. It needs to be, the link for a chat room like that needs to be behind the wall of a learning management system or going directly to a kid in an email. It shouldn't be somewhere that somebody else could access it. Zoom specific, you can manage screen sharing, so it's host only. So that way somebody else in a room can't change what the kids are seeing. Like, you know how Tim was able to show my video, someone besides you can't do that in your Zoom meeting. Also in Zoom, you can require a password, which I'm doing with my kids. That's something that I put on their weekly menu that's on the learning management system, and they use it to get in. And also Zoom's got a waiting room, so you can see a list of attendees before they funnel into the room. And I guess one last thing my administrator told me is to make sure you have an updated version of Zoom, because they are aware these things are happening. So they've been making some changes. And if you have an updated version for Ed, just make sure you do, because they're trying to improve things for us. But I know a lot of people are using like Google Hangouts. They're using, I think Schoology has some type of platform too. And I think like a lot of these same games or ideas can work there too. So it's kind of whatever platform's working for your district.
Awesome. I think those are all great ideas. And it's a good reminder that if you're not using Zoom, Google what the problems are with the platform you're using. I know my son's school was using Google Hangouts, and then they said, actually don't do that because the kids can stay on even when the teacher is out, and with Zoom, it's not that way. So just a good reminder to check whatever platform you're using, kind of see what's out there and try to get ahead of the game. It's probably a good idea.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
Really good advice. So, all right, well, Lindsay, thank you so much. It's been wonderful to have you here.
Yeah,
Thanks, Lindsay.
All right, that will be all for us tonight. If you missed part of this webinar, or you want to watch it again, or you want to share it with someone, it'll be on the Art of Education University Facebook page for a little while, as well as the Art of Education University website. If you pre-registered for the conference, you will receive an email with a link to the recording as well. And, you know, over the next few weeks, just keep coming back to AOEU for lessons, resources, ideas, whatever else you might need, and we will just continue to do the best we can to navigate the situation with you and see what comes up over the next few weeks.
Yep, a big thank you to all of our presenters past weeks and this week's, and thanks for joining us. We'll be back again next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.